Hello, welcome back to the Jordbær Knits podcast. My name is Jordan, and I'm very excited to have you here or to have you join if you're new. This is the 5th episode that I have filmed of the podcast specifically, and I'm very excited to be back. I had been on a pretty good 2-week schedule, and then I mentioned in my last episode I was going to a wedding out of town, and then a few weeks later my parents came and visited, which was awesome, but so I was just a little busy, and so I just totally forgot to film another episode. I also really wanted to finish this piece that I'm wearing, and so since I did finish it, I figured that it would be a great time to film a podcast, especially since I have a new project as well that I did not mention or talk about last time. So without further ado, we can just jump right into my finished objects, and it's just this one. So this, I'll roll back in my chair a little. This is blouse number 1. I'll stand up as well so you can see. Blouse number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. As you can see, I did a short sleeve version. So before I talk about the construction and the fit and my thoughts on that, I will discuss the yarn that I used. So I've got sort of a melange thing going on. I held 2 different yarns together, one of which I have with me still. So I've got one strand of Quince & Co. Sparrow. This is 100% linen, and the color is Truffle. It's 50 grams for 168 yards or 155 meters. So I guess, I don't know, I guess it's sort of like in between a DK and a fingering weight yarn. I had originally used this last summer when I was knitting a little vest, and I was using 3mm needles holding this one strand, but I also held it with this sort of darker, and I don't have the ball band anymore. Ball band, is that the word? Yarn band? But it is Knit Picks Curio. It's like a lace weight cotton yarn, and I remember on the label it said something to do with crochet, and so I think you're supposed to use it for crocheting, which I obviously did not do. And so it's very fine, and so I held 2 strands of that with the 1 strand of the Sparrow, and I got this lovely fabric. I actually have not measured I've not measured the gauge since this has been blocked, but before I blocked it, I think it was about 21 stitches for 4 inches, something like that. And so I figured once it was blocked, it would meet the 19 stitch gauge that the blouse number 1 required. So I knit this in a size 2, which I had originally been on the fence about. I'm a pretty tight knitter, and so I actually was worried that my gauge was going to be too tight, and I had even briefly thought about doing the 3rd size, but I decided to just go with the 2nd. I wasn't quite sure how much yarn I had. As you can see, I have a whole other hank of this, skein, that I didn't even break into, which it was kind of the point to use this up, because I don't know what I'm going to do with one little skein of linen yarn now, but that's okay. But so I did the 2nd size, and I had plenty of yarn left. Like, I had yarn left over from the 3rd ball of this. I had 2 balls each of the Knit Picks Curio, and I still have yarn left in each ball. And I think that one has about 720 yards. So it goes quite far because it's so thin. But that's to say, because I did the short sleeves, I had plenty of yarn left. I don't know if I could have gotten full sleeves out of that yarn. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do short sleeves. The other was so I could hopefully wear it during the summer. I've said in other podcasts, but I live in Austin, Texas, and it gets very hot over the summer. And so I wanted something that I could still wear to work, but that would be hopefully a little more breathable, you know, with the linen and cotton together. Because even though I was holding 3 strands, it really is not that thick of a fabric. It's pretty nice. It's not very holey or anything, but it definitely still feels breathable. Now, I have, I think, mixed feelings, and I was hoping to have more positive feelings than I do about this. In my last episode, when I was talking about starting this project, I mentioned how for months I've been wanting to do blouse number 1. I really love all of the pictures I've seen of people on Instagram and Ravelry and other podcasters in their YouTube videos talking about this pattern. Like, the neckline is gorgeous. I love the sort of flared long sleeves and just sort of the silhouette. And I just feel like I didn't quite achieve the look I was going for with this. And there's definitely a few reasons why. Like, I definitely know what I could have done differently. First of all, we'll start with the neckline. So I do kind of like how it looks in the front here. I don't mind this little bit of rolling at all. I was totally expecting that. But then I'll turn around real quick. I feel like it goes quite far down in the back. And I think it's a combination of maybe the choice of yarn that I used, in that I was using these super drapey, linen and cotton that they don't have a ton of memory. And then also you knit the pattern in, I think it's 5mm or on 5mm needles. However, you're supposed to cast on, I think, using either 4 or 4.5mm needles, to get like a tighter cast on. And I just like totally did not read the pattern until I had already cast it on and had started knitting. And I just didn't think it would make that big of a difference, but obviously it did. And now I am living with the consequences of that. So again, that's totally my fault for that. But yeah, so I don't mind the neckline in the front. I don't really like how far it's sort of folding over in the back. And I think I could fix it maybe if I were to sort of close up the seams here on either side so that it was so that the neck opening wasn't as big. That might help. I also could look into putting elastic into it. I've never done that before, and honestly, it does scare me a little. But I feel like that might help as well. So if you have any thoughts about that, I would love to hear your opinion down below in the comments. Like, do you think just closing up the neck opening on either side would help? Do you think I should look at trying to sew some elastic thread into it? Is there anything else that I'm not thinking of? I don't know. I do want to look into doing something though eventually, just because I think it'll annoy me being as it is right now. The other thing that I don't love, or it just wasn't exactly the vision I was going for in my head, are the sleeves. So I mentioned in my last video when I was talking about doing this short sleeve version, which I think in my last episode, I don't even know if I had split for sleeves. Like, it was really probably somewhere around here. And I did want a cap sleeve sort of look. Like I do like the short little sleeves. I didn't want to do anything longer, but when I was splitting for sleeves, I just bound off on the sleeve and then kept going and cast on however many stitches under the arm that the pattern calls for. So instead of putting the sleeves on hold for if you were to go back and knit the long sleeves, I just bound off immediately. And I didn't think about what that tightness would do to the sleeves. Obviously, I knew that it wouldn't really be stretchy, but I didn't really have an idea of what the armhole looked like. That's such an odd angle, but I guess maybe I should have tried it on first before binding it off, but I just didn't think it would be an issue really. And so when I first tried it on, after I had knit probably to here, and I tried it on just to see how it looked, the sleeves definitely felt a little tight. Like I could still move my arms, but I could really feel it pulling right here. And luckily with blocking, it did loosen a little, so I do have a lot of movement in my arms and stuff. And I mean, I don't need to be doing crazy things where I'm lifting my arms like that. But I just don't really like you can see this where it goes out. I don't love that. And like this one doesn't even do it as much. And well, yeah, okay, I guess it does. But I had been envisioning something more, I guess like that. I don't know if I can even fold it, where I guess I was picturing something more angled, which I would have had to totally plan for. Like I would have had to do some sort of decreases or increases on the sleeve part. Yeah, it would have been a lot of math and things for me. So I wasn't even thinking about that when I was knitting it, but I do sort of think that if I had done a stretchier bind off, like not necessarily Italian bind off, but maybe even just like Judy's magic bind off, whatever the super stretchy bind off is, or Jenny's super stretchy bind off, I think. Even doing that, I think would have been a little better, because I feel like since this bind off edge is so much tighter, it looks kind of funny where it's more puffed, I think, than I was intending. But it's not even that it's puffed here. It's just right there. And I don't know, like I probably am noticing it more than anyone else is. But I guess this is just sort of a word of warning if you are interested in knitting a short sleeve version of this blouse, that you might just want to consider doing a stretchier bind off for the sleeves if you are just going to sort of stop them right when you're splitting for sleeves. Like I didn't knit anything else under. And now that also could be something that maybe would help, where if you did knit even like an inch or half an inch, something really small, but just to bring it out a little so that it was, I guess, maybe even around, I don't know. There's definitely a few different ways you could go that I think would prevent this sort of shape from happening. And at this point in time, I don't know if I can personally fix this sleeve, since I did bind off here and then just like immediately cast on the stitches and continue knitting. I think it'd be really hard to go back and fix this. And again, I think this is something that just I notice because I know what I did when I was knitting it. I don't think people looking at my shirt otherwise would necessarily know. But it's just something else that I am not I don't want to say disappointed with, but it just didn't live up to the vision in my head that I had when I was knitting. The other sort of part of it, which also I think has to do with my yarn selection, is that there's not really any negative ease. Like it's still, it's pretty loose. Like I haven't measured, but I would guess that there's maybe like an inch or two of positive ease. I know that the original pattern, it's supposed to be a little more close fitting like this, I think, where you're supposed to have either 0 inches / centimeters or negative ease even. And I think it's just because I was using a linen and cotton, and I know cotton just grows when you block it. So I guess that was on me. I truly, like I mentioned, I'm a tight knitter, so I didn't think that I would want to go down to the first size. Maybe I should have done that, but it's okay. I don't mind it necessarily. It just wasn't what I was expecting. And the other thing, I'll stand back up. So after the after the sleeve bind off issue that I discovered, I decided when I was binding off the edge down here, I was going to go up a needle size. So I used a 5.5 millimeter needle to do the bind off here. And again, I just did like a regular bind off in pattern. I didn't do anything stretchy. And look at this, it's like not really even rolling, which is crazy. Maybe that again is the cotton and linen playing into it. But even going up a needle size, I mean, man, there is still no stretch. It's pretty rigid. Now, luckily, I can get it over my body, my shoulders, no problem. And I think it looks fine when I'm wearing it. It's just something else to keep in mind too, that like if you do a stretchy bind off for the sleeves, just do it for the bottom edge as well. Because I do wish it went out a little. Like I wish there was a little flaring that was going on, but that's okay. I know some people have talked about specifically adding some waist shaping, like doing some decreases and then increases. And I did briefly think about doing that, but I just got too lazy and figured it would be fine. And I mean, I have more yarn left. So if I really wanted to, I could go back and change the body at least, like add some waist shaping in. But considering that around the bust, it's not tight on me, like it still is a little loose fitting, I feel like the waist shaping wouldn't really be necessary. Like it wouldn't do anything, or not that it wouldn't do anything, but I feel like it wouldn't really match the upper part of the shirt. So I will probably just leave it as is. But ultimately, I am happy that I have this. I do plan on wearing it to work, and I've already worn it out and about. And again, I think I just have mixed feelings about it because it didn't quite live up to the vision in my head that I had for it, but it's okay. You know, knitting is a learning process all the time, and every project isn't going to turn out perfectly, and that's okay. It's not a failure. I'm definitely going to wear it still, but it just means that I'm going to make another blouse number 1 and I will probably do a full long sleeve version of that next time because I do really want that silhouette still. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about my short sleeve blouse number 1. Yeah, I will move on to my works in progress. Oh, wait, I have a very small, I guess I have 2 very small little finished objects. So let me go get one of them. I totally forgot about it. Okay, so I have 2 little dog bandanas that I've made. In my very first video that I posted on here, on this channel, It was my Everything I Knitted in 2023 video, and I talked about this little bandana that I made for my dog Irwin. And this was a pattern that I found on Ravelry. It's a free download. I don't remember the name of the woman who posted it, but the pattern itself is called Bandana for Pups. And I'll put a link in the description for it in case you also want to knit it. But based on her, on like her Ravelry design post, I think this was originally a Pearl Soho free pattern for humans, and she adapted it into a little dog bandana. And last year when I knitted this, I should say that the pattern was originally sort of written for a smaller dog. I don't know what, just like a small dog, like a dachshund or something like that. And Irwin is an 80-pound Labrador Retriever. And so I had read some of the other the Ravelry project pages for people who had large dogs and had knit this. And based off of them, I ended up casting on, I want to say maybe 40 stitches more than what the original pattern had called for, because I was really worried about being able to get it over his head. And basically, I mean, you can see it's a circle. So you knit in the round, and to make this point, you do decreases in the front here, and then the stockinette part, you do short rows. In the pattern, it calls for, I think, wrap and turn. I think that was the phrase that was in the pattern. And when I was making this originally last year, I tried to do that, and it just looked kind of sloppy. Like, I didn't like how it was looking, and so I just did German short rows, and it worked out fine. And you just have to do a little bit of math when you add the extra stitches just to figure out, like how many you knit before making the decreases, but it's not very difficult. And then you do all the stockinette part to make the actual triangle shape, and then you just do more garter stitch in the round to do the rest of the part, which goes around their head. And I used, I think it's loops and thread. I don't remember the name of the actual yarn or like the line, but it's an acrylic yarn. And I think my parents just gave it to me like for a little gift at some point in time, but it's really cute. I like the color changing, little stripy effect. But because it's acrylic, it's pretty stretchy. Now, I haven't washed this at all, which is why it has like a sort of curved shape down here, but I don't really mind that. But because of that, like I said, very stretchy. And so when I made it last year, it actually was too big on Irwin. I sort of overcompensated in terms of how many stitches I casted on. So it would go very easily over his head, and then there was sort of a lot of room around his neck, and I just didn't like how it looked. And I kind of forgot about it because Irwin has a lot of bandanas and he wears bow ties as well sometimes, and so he hadn't worn it in a while. But then someone commented on my project post on Ravelry that they thought it was really cute and that Irwin looked very handsome, which made me smile. But it reminded me of this project, and I thought, I'm just gonna unravel it and make it smaller. It's so easy. Like, it literally takes maybe 2 hours to do this. Probably quicker if you can knit faster than me. But so I unraveled it, and then I cast on, I think, 81 stitches for Irwin. I think, last time when I did it, I cast on 101, and this time I did 81. So I decreased it by 20 stitches. And when I was binding off, even though I had just done these sleeves and seen, how tight just a regular bind off is, I was lazy and just decided to do it again. Also because I knew I could probably get it over his head. So this top, not stretchy at all, but the rest of it is pretty stretchy. And I have no issue getting this over his head. And it does fit him a lot better now. Honestly, you could probably still even take out a few stitches if you wanted, but then you would want to make sure to do the stretchy bind off. But anyway, I'm very happy with how this fits now. So if you have a big dog as well and are looking for a quick little bandana project that you don't have to do ties for and tie it, this is a super great option. And I think around 81, give or take like 5 stitches, depending on your dog's neck and head size. That's sort of the sweet spot for this particular pattern. And then when my parents came in town this past weekend, I wanted to make another little bandana so that they could bring it home for their new puppy, because I as well, but I haven't in a while, but they train guide dog puppies for a school in Florida. And so they just recently got a new little puppy to train who's actually Irwin's niece. She's so cute. But so I wanted to make a little bandana for her, because when I first got into knitting, I made some other bandanas for our other dogs who we have as pets. But so this new little puppy, Skye, she needs a bandana, obviously. And so I have some like random wool in the gang yarn that one of my friends who tried to get into knitting, but it didn't work for her, she gave it to me, and I've just been using it for random projects over the last 2 years. And let me see, I actually have some. It's crazy because it seems like I can never use it up. Like, it's just always there. I always have some, and I'm like, it's just gonna last forever, I guess. So this is what I used. It is Feeling Good yarn. I'm trying to remember the fiber makeup. I know it's majority alpaca. I think there's a little bit of wool, and then maybe some like polyamide or whatever it is, because it's a super airy blown yarn and very fluffy. I do like this yarn, but I also dislike it because it sheds a lot and it gets that little, like the little ring of fiber that sometimes forms around the strand when you're knitting it. It annoys me so much, and it happens a lot with this yarn. Oh yeah, look here. Here it is. I guess it was attached. So anyway, I figured though that this would be good to use because I knew that the bandana that I was going to make was going to be smaller than what Irwin's was, and also even his did not take a lot of yarn. It's a really good little stash busting project. But so I decided to use this. I believe this color is called Pink Sherbet, that word, and I think this color is discontinued now. I have a whole other ball of this that I haven't even broken into yet, which I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But anyway, I'll put pictures up of Skye wearing the bandana because it's so cute. And it took me like an hour and a half or something. Like it was so quick. And I'll have to look on my Ravelry page to confirm, but I believe for hers, I cast on 71 stitches. So a little smaller than Irwin's because she's maybe 6 months old. 6 or 7 months old, I think. Oh, actually maybe 8. I don't know, but she's pretty young still. So not as big as Irwin. And yeah, it looks adorable on her. So those were my 2 other quick little mini finished projects. And so now I'll talk about my works in progress. So I will talk about the one that you've seen already. It's probably going to be hard to see any progress on it, but this is my Mega Solar Blouse by Spectacle Streak. I am knitting it using Typical Bliss Superwash worsted yarn in the color Secret Garden, I think. And it is so pretty. I love this colorway, this like pale green with these bright blue and yellow and pink and almost greenish speckles throughout. So this, it looks so crazy like this, just like a tube basically, but it's knit in 4x4 rib, so it's super stretchy, and that's why it looks so condensed here. But I'll actually try it on for you. I put some barber cord on so that I can try it on later, because I haven't actually tried it on recently. But you knit it starting with the back panel, and you make increases, and then you connect for the front, and you knit the front panel before connecting under the arms. And I was talking about this in my last episode as well, that it's not the same construction as this blouse, even though I think it's going to be sort of that, high neck, boat neck sort of neckline. This, I'm assuming, will be very close to the neck, unlike this one. But yeah, it's an interesting little construction because, you just pick up and knit. But I mean, you'll see when I try it on, like the seam only goes to here, so it's not like a drop shoulder. So I don't really know what exactly to call it, but I guess set in sleeves maybe, because I mean the sleeves will start like here, similar to this blouse. But yeah, I think it'll be really cute. I'm just working on the body now. As you can see, I've made some pretty good progress. I think last time I showed you, it was probably somewhere around here, and it's sort of slow going just because it's ribbing and it gets kind of tiring to do the knit 4 and then purl 4 and then knit 4 or purl 4. And the needle that I'm using, it's kind of hard to see because I've got the cord on right now, but it's just too long where I can't really knit it all in one circle. Like I am having to sort of split it up to do like a magic loop thing, just so I'm not stretching the stitches when I'm knitting them. So that's been a little annoying to do, just because it takes a little bit extra time to, set up the stitches with the needle and do the magic loop. But it's okay. I'm not trying to get this finished anytime soon. I mentioned in my other episode where I talked about this that if I finish it, maybe I can wear it to the office because it gets cold there, especially since there's going to be few people working over summer. But I'm not trying to finish this anytime soon because it is going to be so hot. But I'll try it on real quick. Okay, here is the little sweater. Very little crop top right now, but as you can see, once I put it on, you can really see all that beautiful rib. And wow, yeah, the neckline, very high. I don't think I said it before, but there's no short rows in this pattern. I believe you do, when you are casting on for the front, I think you do cast on a fewer stitches than are in the back, but I don't know how much, if any, difference that makes. Now, of course, this is not blocked, so hopefully when I block it, it'll loosen up like a little bit more because it's a little tight on my neck right now. And based on where it's sitting, it looks like the sleeves would start really far in, but I mean, obviously, like, because of the nature of ribbing, it's really curled in over here. So I think once I cast the sleeves on and I block it, it'll sit more like this, and the neckline will be more open like that. But otherwise, yeah, you can see it's definitely still cropped. It's not, I don't think it's too tight on my arms. I forgot to say too, I'm knitting a size 2 in this, and all of my measurements I'll put in the description so that if you want to, compare to yourself to see like what size you should knit, it'll be down there. My plan going forward is I'm gonna finish up this ball of yarn that I'm using for the body. I'll probably need to break in to another one to finish it because I do want this to be a little bit longer, obviously. I haven't decided completely, maybe like to here, just so it can either sit sort of directly over the top of my pants or maybe so that I could tuck it in a little bit. I don't know. We will see. Like I said, or I've said in previous episodes, I do have a pretty long torso. So you can take that in mind as well. I don't remember how long the pattern calls for you to knit it, but even though my torso is long, I usually end up cropping my things anyway, just since I wear high-waisted pants. But yeah, I'm gonna finish this ball, which is coming from the back right now, but I'm gonna finish this ball and then probably put the body on hold and knit the sleeves. I do have 2 more balls of this of the typical Bliss yarn, so I feel like I'm doing okay yarn wise. I felt like I was maybe gonna have to play yarn chicken a little, but I think it'll end up being okay, because I feel like it is going pretty far in terms of this, what I've knit so far. I think maybe because of the ribbing, it just stretches so much, so you get a lot more out of it than what it feels like you're putting in. So the sleeves will take less, obviously, since the circumference is smaller, and I think it'll be good. I do, even just looking at this now, I do really like how it's fitting. I love how tight it is. I think the ribbing looks really nice. You might be able to see I do have that thing with the last knit stitch before changing to purl where it is a little looser. So I am trying to be really cognizant of that when I'm knitting, but it's just a little tricky and something to think about if you're also doing like a 2x2 or 4x4 rib. Yeah, that is the Mega Solar blouse. So very excited to keep seeing it grow and to put some sleeves on it, because I think that'll really give a better impression of how it'll look up here. So let me go take this off real quick and then I'll talk about my last work in progress. Okay. Taking that off sort of like messed my bangs up, but that's okay. My last work in progress, I am very excited to talk about as well. I definitely did not talk about it in the previous one, but I applied to test Handmade by Florence, or Florence Miller, her new tank top or camisole pattern that she's coming out with. I think she's calling it the Mixed Rib Cami. I'm like holding it, I'm sort of previewing it already, or I don't know. I'm just I'm just excited to talk about it. So I'll just show you. I don't know why I was trying to hide it. But so this is what I have so far. So I found out that I was picked for the test knit a few days before I left for the wedding that I was traveling to. So initially I had planned on using Sunday by Sandnes Garn in this cute little, what is it, like a dusty lilac, I think is the color. It's like a light, just sort of like a light purple with a tinge of gray in it. I had bought some Sunday from someone on Mercari, I think last year, and so I had just like one ball of it, and so I was planning on buying more, even though the dye lots would not have been the same. But I knit it up and it looked cute, but recently I've just been interested in pale yellow, like a sort of butter yellow. I know I've seen other people sort of talk about this color, and I've seen it on Instagram, and it just looks really cute, and I was sort of intrigued by it. And so when I was thinking about buying more yarn for this pattern and thinking about how I'm probably not going to get the same dye lots, who knows if there's going to be any color difference, I was like, maybe I'll just buy whole new yarn. And I was considering, I think Sandusgarn has a yellow, like I think they call it banana something. I'm trying to remember. And I was thinking about doing that, but I didn't want anything too yellow. Like I definitely wanted it pale. And so then I was just looking around to see like what other yarns, like fingering merinos, I could find that would be the color that I wanted. And ultimately I ended up deciding on this, which is Cascade 220 Superwash, which I wasn't necessarily trying to get Superwash or trying to avoid it, but I figured this might be good anyway since it's going to be a tank top and I might get sweaty in it because it's wool. So even though it's a tank top, I don't know how wearable it'll be for summer. It'll probably be like if I'm just going out to dinner and not going to be spending more than 30 minutes outside or something. But anyway, after knitting the Mega Solar blouse, or like working on it and seeing that rib, I was super intrigued by this tank top because I realized I really like that sort of tight-fitting rib. And it's called the Mixed Rib Camisole because you're doing some twisted ribbing and then just some regular stockinette. So it's like ribbing, but with a little something extra, which I really like. And in our group chat on Instagram, some of the people are just flying with this pattern. Like they've already connected the front and back panels, they're working on the body, and because I ordered this and had to wait for it, and then my parents were in town the past weekend, I only got to start on this on Monday, so just several days ago. And so I don't have a ton of progress on it yet. It's also knit on 3mm needles, so quite tiny, but I'm confident that I can probably get it done within the test window. I think it'll be fine. I'm going to prioritize just doing this. So I don't really have any other cast on plans in the imminent future anyway. And the Mega Solar blouse will kind of just like sit off to the side for now. So I should be able to get this done in time. And I am excited for it. When I opened the package, I was a little worried that maybe it's not yellowy enough. Like it is pretty creamy. I think the colorway is called Banana Cream, but I do think it's a good mix of what I wanted, of like a neutral but yellow. I feel like the light is kind of blowing it out right now. I wish I had something white to hold against it so you could see. Here, we'll use this tag. So like, here's the Sparrow tag, which is white. And then when you hold it up against white, like you can definitely tell, like, oh, okay, that's yellow. And it's sort of more saturated than just like a regular cream. So I do think you can see, ignore my chipped nails, sorry. You can tell though that it's like a yellow cream. And I also was sort of worried too, when I was looking online at the different shades, that a pale yellow would sort of wash me out, but I think it'll be okay. I never get super tan in the summer, but I'm also not the palest of pale either, so I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be nice. I have a pair of white shorts and a pair of white pants, and I think it'll look so nice wearing with them. I sort of love the very subtle it's not entirely monochrome, but it's like a very subtle difference of. Okay, sorry. I don't know if you if you heard in the video, someone rang my doorbell and it was just the delivery person, which they normally don't ring the doorbell, but that's okay. I have no idea what I was talking about. I do not remember at all, but that's okay. I'll just continue with my sort of concluding thoughts about this little project so far. Forgot to mention I'm doing the size C, which is the same size that I did when I knit the step-by-step cardigan, and that size worked out perfectly for me. Oh my gosh, sorry, I'm like slightly out of breath because I ran up the stairs quite quickly. But when I did the gauge swatch for this, now I did it with Santa's Garn with the Sunday. I did not do a separate gauge swatch with the Cascade 220. My gauge unblocked was about 32 or 33 stitches, and I think the pattern calls for 30. And I knew it would grow a little bit, but I was sort of considering doing the size D instead because I didn't want to go up a needle size just because it's meant to be a tank top and I didn't want the fabric to be too holey or anything. But then when I got the Superwash yarn, I figured I might as well just do the size C because it's meant to be a tight-fitting tank top, and it might grow a little extra with considering it's Superwash as opposed to regular merino. And so I figured it's probably going to be fine. And I have used Cascade 220 before. I knit the Superwash specifically. I knit my friend's melange sweater that I gifted to her in Cascade 220, and so I do know that it does grow. And honestly, like, my gauge for that sweater was pretty similar to what my gauge on my melange sweater, which was knitted in Sunday. And so I'm not super concerned that these are very different gauges. But yeah, hopefully next time I record, I will have probably not a finished tank top, but something that looks like a tank top. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this so far. It's a pretty easy pattern to memorize, and you just have to be careful of which stitches are twisted and which are regular. But yeah, I'm super excited for this. And I think that wraps everything up. Thank you so much for watching, for sticking with me, coming back to watch other episodes. I do really love talking about knitting, and it's been really fun to slowly get some online friends-ish, online acquaintances, I'll say. I think doing the test knits helps a little bit because then you can follow and meet some of the other people who are in the group. So that's been nice. But yeah, I will see you guys in a future episode. Happy knitting, as everyone likes to say. Happy knitting. Hope you are enjoying the hopefully warm weather where everyone is. Being that it's May, it's probably getting warm for most people in the Northern Hemisphere. So hopefully it's not too bad yet. And yeah, see you next time. Bye.